So we're very happy for this session today. It's going to be a really interesting session because we have two people who are coming from Barcelona, which is a very interesting context for Greece because the cooperative housing model emerged, let's say, 15 years ago, 2 decades ago. So it's a very interesting case because it's a Southern European city with many similarities with Greece that managed to create a cooperative housing projects. And here we're very lucky. We have two people that were, let's say, from the beginning of all of this. Diego Carillo, who is an architect. He's working in Celobert Cooperative. That is a cooperative that is working with ecological projects, cooperative housing projects. And he's also a member of Perviure. Perviure is a cooperative that works for the management and development of cooperative projects in a more the management aspects, but the general support, let's say, of the cooperative housing groups. And yeah, so we'll have two very interesting experiences. And yeah, as we said, the Spanish context, I think, is really valuable for us to for the similarities that we have. So, Diego, thanks a lot for being with us.
Thank you.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation, and thank you also for the invitation to share our experience here. It's a very interesting context because, as Zoe was saying before, we feel very much in the same feeling as I believe you have. We were in your position 20 years ago, and I think I could say that at the beginning we thought that was like a dream, an impossible dream, but year after year, when you have a project that it's the implementation of the right to use cooperative, now we will talk about this in a society because it works in other parts of Europe and in other parts of the world. It seems a dream, but when this dream is beginning to be shared with colleagues and with people that believe in it, it can become a reality. And this model is real now in Barcelona and Catalonia. It's beginning to be real in the rest of Spain. In Catalonia, Barcelona is being a little bit like the starter of this implementation in Spain. And I'm very happy today to be here and to share our experience so that it also can be a reality in Greece sooner than later. So I will share my screen. Can you see it?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. So, well, the title of this presentation is this title that has been proposed by the organization is the participatory design processes and the work with cooperative groups and communities. So I've been asked to focus a little bit into the architectural process of collective design or co-design. And that's a little bit the idea. Okay, my target is to do a presentation of 30-40 minutes. I'm not sure if I will be able to reach this objective, and after have a conversation. Okay, but I think this conversation is probably more interesting and more important than the explanation because. Well, I'm sure your questions and the debate can be very, very necessary and very useful. So, as Zoe said, we are a cooperative, a work cooperative that we promote ecological transition and the right to housing through urban planning, architecture, and engineering. And we are committed to people and territory. Our mission, vision, and values as architects and as engineers is this one, and that's why we focus into housing, mainly into housing projects. So our cooperative is a non-for-profit cooperative. So we are a bit weird studio of architects because we are immersed into the social economy and into non-for-profit as a non-for-profit organization. And one of our missions is this that we are having now. No? It's the participation and in dissemination projects and workshops to generate shared tools and knowledge. No? So we are a group of 17 architects and engineers in our cooperatives. So in this image, you see a part of the team. And we do this kind of project, okay? Well, we do passive and ecological family houses. We do housing rehabilitation, cooperative and collective housing, equipment and other spaces. This is more the construction and engineering area, the building and engineering area. And also we work in urban planning, urban regeneration, strategic housing planning, housing policies, and urban planning. So today we are going to talk about how do we do architecture in a tenure model that it's not the property model or the rental model, it's the right of use model. Okay, I think you already know the model, so I'm not going to extend about it. If there's any question, we can talk about it later. But I think it can be useful to share with you when we talk about housing cooperative models, what are the different cooperative models within this model? Okay, and I have this image where you see in the columns we see two kinds of cooperatives: the umbrella model and the independent model. The umbrella model is the model of Sostra Civic and COPKIS, or Cooperativa Obrera de Viviendas. This is a cooperative that that has many projects in it. No? I mean, it's a cooperative. Sostra Civic, for instance, at this moment, they have 15 buildings in Barcelona. They began their activity in 2003-4, but they become formally a cooperative in 2010. And the first projects, new construction projects, were finished around 2020, 2021, and now they are doing like around 10 more projects in Catalonia area. This is a cooperative with more than 1,000 members in it, and they constantly do more projects. So this is one model. Okay, the other model is the model that it's implemented by Perviure or La Dinamo, La Col that you will see later, Carlas. They belong to La Dinamo, and these are organizations that support in the management to independent cooperatives that are maybe 20 families cooperative or 20 units cooperative, and they are not professionals in the real estate, and they need the help of a management structure to develop the real estate process. Okay, so these are cooperatives that the members who will live in the building, they participate in all decisions and they are independent. Okay, in Sostra Civic, if you belong to a project, you are not they are part of the decisions that make the decision the whole cooperative, so more than 1,000 people, and other decisions are made only by the people who live in that building. So it's a different model. Both develop the right of use model of cooperative, but the process is different. Okay, normally there is more participation in the independent model. Also, it requires more time and more effort. The other, in the contrary, when you're in the umbrella model, sometimes it's easier for the people because there is a structure that the technical team of Sostra Civic that develop and make part of the decision. So the important thing here is that there are different ways to reach the objective of really doing this objective of promoting this right of use cooperative that will permit and that will give up it will be easier for our society to the right of housing. Okay, so the property is a problem for most of the population, the rental is a problem, the right of use, it gives us the possibility of really being more how to say that, well, the right of housing more real. Okay, so both paths, both kind of types of cooperatives go to the same objective and are positive because they give response to the diversity of the population. Okay. Well, today I wanted to talk about many things. I'm not sure if we will reach all these objectives, but we will talk about for whom is our work as architects, because it's not a common project for architects, because we will see later why. We will talk about the architecture as part of something, and that means that architects by ourselves, we won't be able to reach the objectives only with architects. This is not an issue of architects only, it's an issue of many other disciplines. After that, I will focus into the CRS project, that it's our first big project in co-housing in right of use cooperative. This will be the more architect's explanation with plans and drawings and images. And after that, I will talk a little bit about the theory of this process, no? Not only of the process of CRS, but a little bit the theory of our theory today, after having been working more or less in 5 or 6 projects of this characteristic. And these 4 points are the foundations. What do we need before the project to be started? After, what are the roles of the architecture team? What's our role of architects in this context? And what are the areas of community participation in this co-design process? What are the areas? What are the different parts? And after, we will have this conversation and this final consideration. Is it okay for you? I'm sorry for my English, because sometimes the word doesn't come out, but I'm doing my best.
Yeah, no worries. We understand everything.
Okay.
Perfect.
So for whom? We are not doing a project for the public sector, who sometimes there is nobody behind, because just you do your project and maybe you have an interlocutor, somebody behind that gives you some indications, or you have some written description of what are you supposed to do, and you also don't have one client. No? The difficulty of our process is that we are doing a project for a community, and a community is not something static. It's something that it changes all the time. It changes because people come in and come out, and it changes because people change through the process. Okay, so we do a project for a community or a future community. This community can have, or usually has, a collective identity. Here we see the image of a group of elders who is called Cansatanta, who are trying to develop a project. They have a plot in Barcelona now, that belongs to the municipality. And they are all over 70-year-old, and they are trying to develop their project. And their identity is that all of them are elders, and they want to imagine, and they want to live in a community of old people who wants to investigate and who wants to experience another way of becoming older in our society. This is an example. Another example is this community that is La Renega, who is a group only of women that are trying to develop a community. We're doing the works, and the building it will be finished in September. And they have a will of transformation of our society in terms of gender's perspective and feminism. So the way of their decision making, their principles, their way of making decisions is based on feminism, and their community wants to become a community that transforms all the environment, all the surroundings, all the territory. All the projects used to have shared spaces, so it's not only an issue of providing an individual private with a private space for each family or for each person. It also has to do with community spaces and thinking that my house is not only my flat. My house is the whole building, the whole infrastructure. Okay, we are going to talk quite a lot about this concept of infrastructure. And there is also a participation in the process, because most of the times there is the community. It begins. It's there before you arrive. Okay, it depends on these models I told you at the beginning. Sometimes Ostracivic has the capacity, because they are big, to start projects without the community. But in the individual projects, or more independent, not individual, independent project that I told you at the beginning, this is not possible, because you as architect or you as manager, you need the client to begin the project. So most of the times there is a participation in the process since the beginning. And if it's not since the beginning, people arrive during the process, and you need participation abilities so that the project can be developed, and the client, talking about the client, the community is satisfied and feels that they are part of the process. Okay? And the last point is that usually these projects are not like, in Spanish we use the word mushroom. No, they are not mushrooms in the middle of the city that has like a life, internal life. It's not only an issue of doing mushrooms in the city. It's mainly an issue of doing projects that interact with the neighborhood, and that has an impact in the territory, has an impact in the context of the city, of the territory. Okay, most of the projects, they want to have an impact in this territory by the way of providing community spaces that are also open to the neighborhood, by organizing activities in their building, by participating in the dynamic of the social and activism dynamic of the territory, etc., etc. We must think that these buildings, they are inhabited by people who usually are politically positioned and want changes. No? And this is something that it's very visible in the project of Barcelona. Okay? Maybe it's because of that the politics are a bit scared of really facilitating a lot of land, because these projects are very contestative, are very activist usually. So the architects as part of four things, no? A legal scope. So the legal, before the conversation, before we begin, we were having a conversation with the organizers of this session and of this seminar, and I told them that Ostracivic, I was in the foundation of Ostracivic in 2003. We began studying the legal scope, how to implement this right of use cooperative in our territory. The legal part is very important, not only in terms of the definition of the cooperative, but also how do you regulate all the decisions. How the legal aspect is very important, and usually is the first point. Okay. There also you have to be inserted also in the economic and financial field. If you have grants, if you have a kind of loan or another kind of loan, the economic aspect is crucial, and this is something that you realize once you have the first land to do the project. You don't have the money, so it's very, very important to work also the economic and financial issues in parallel to the architectural issues, the legal issues, etc. And the last but not least one is the human relations and governance scope. Before I was saying that the community, the groups are changing since the beginning, because usually the groups are begun by little groups, maybe of a third of the potential community in terms of number. And these groups are increasing of number of people, and the people changes, and they are, well, it's like a big family, you know. So you have to have tools to deal with governance and with human relationship and facilitation, because there are many conflicts actually, and we understand the conflict as something positive, in the sense that problems and interest and different points of view emerge, and you have to deal with that, and you have to be able to put all these differences in the same path, so that the cooperative and the group becomes more powerful and becomes really a community than can have way of relating one with the other, also in a sense of more democracy, etc., etc. So this point is also very important. And the last point is the architecture, that everybody knows and understands, because here we are a little bit all very much of this field. Okay, I want to say with these words that the architecture is one of the pillars of a cooperative, but it's not the only pillar. And only with architecture we will arrive anywhere. Okay. So here we have the Cireres building. It's a 32 dwelling building, and it's promoted. The cooperative is Civic and Celuber. We have participated in the project since the beginning. Okay, the project it began in 2017 and it finished in 2021. Okay, so the works were with the COVID, so it was interesting. Well, interesting, that's a way of saying it was zero interesting. Anyway, this project is built in the surroundings, in the perurban area of Barcelona, in the neighborhood of Roquetas. This is a neighborhood that was built in the 50s, 60s with all the migration process of southern Spain that arrived to Barcelona. So it's an activist neighborhood who has been participating in the urbanization of this informal neighborhood at the beginning. Now it's not informal, but it was informal at the beginning, and all the urbanization has been done thanks to the activism of the people. So it's a quite interesting neighborhood. Here in the right-hand side, you can see the plot, who is in a very special position. In the left, we see this kind of city that it's made by family houses that are 3-story buildings between, I don't know the name, maybe so we can help, entre medianeras, ¿cómo se dice?
Yes, that they are touching the walls, no? That they
are touching the walls
in between.
Between walls, yeah. You will see the image now, and in the right-hand side, we see another kind of city, more contemporary city, if you want, more modern buildings. So our building, it's a little bit in the middle and has to facilitate this interaction and this relationship between these two parts of the neighborhood. Okay, you will see now. Well, this is an image of Barcelona, and the principal and core values of this project are three. Okay, one is ecology, the other one is community, and the other one is society. When we talk about ecology, we are talking about CO2 emissions associated to the construction of the building and also to the use of the building. And this was during a few years the tallest wooden building in Barcelona. Not anymore. That's good, because it means that wood it's a material that it's being more and more used in Barcelona. But at the beginning, it was an important decision, this one, in terms of cost, in terms of innovation, etc. When we talk about community, it's a building, as I said before, where the house or it's the whole building, and this building has private spaces but also community spaces. Here you see a little bit what are the main community spaces that are internal spaces, but also outdoor spaces that are communal in a Mediterranean way of using the space. Here, one of the special points of the building is the street landings. What we talk street landings, these are the landings of the stairs in each floor is not only a way to pass and arrive to the different dwellings, but one of the main ideas is that these spaces are a bit wider and bigger, and they become like streets in the building, so that with this idea of the Mediterranean street where people get out of the house and put the table and the chairs and people talk, kids play, etc., etc. We will see a little bit that a bit better a bit later. Here we see the ground floor where we have mainly community spaces that are open to this square here. This is a community space that is open here to the street. This is another one, and here we have a cooperative store that sells how to say that sells food, ecological food. Okay, and it's also a very good position in terms of well. I'm going to pass a bit quick here, but when we talk about ecology, we've done an effort of doing a passive house standard building here with the main strategies of passive house design standard. This means compactness, insulation, air tightness control, natural ventilation, mechanical ventilation, centralized aerothermal. Well, this building really after now that it's being monitored, really the energy consumption is half of the minimum that is established by the law, the European law for near zero emission buildings. So we are really reaching the objective of reducing much more than the objectives established by the law for near zero emission buildings. So this building is really good in terms of CO2 emissions related to the use of the building. Okay? But also not only related to the use of the building, but also related to the embodied energy of all the process of construction. This building, as I told you before, it has been made by wood. That wood it's a carbon battery. Okay, so the wood basically it's carbon embedded in it. So only doing the building in wood, it has supposed. I think it's 700, more than 700 tons of CO2 embedded in the structure of the building, but also an important target also has been that it's a dry construction. Okay, so we have a ground floor that is in concrete, but everything from ground floor until the 7th floor is made of wood and with dry construction. This means lime mortar, plasterboard, and plaster fiber partitions, wood fiber and rock wool insulations, etc. Here you have an image of the building when it was only the wood in it. And these are the acoustic insulation that we are obliged to put between dwelling and dwelling, between flat and flat. As you see, we didn't use concrete. Here we have used stones and this kind of paper, carton paper, where the stones are embedded in, so it works. This is in terms of ecology, okay? When we talk about community, the idea a little bit is this building tries to blur this public-private line that usually it's very clear and very rigid in the cities and in our society, especially in, I would say, in the Southern Europe countries. In Barcelona, we are used to have a very strong line between the public and the private. You have a door, you have a key and a doorbell, and here you get into the private. Okay, this building, what we have been trying to do since the beginning is to blur this line, so that we understand that that the building is an equipment. It's an equipment as like a public building where people are invited to get in. And this orange that you see is the pavement of the city of Barcelona that we have introduced in the building, the same pavement, the same floor. And this floor, it goes up floor by floor. And you have this feeling and this invitation that like this carpet that it gets of the city, that it gets of the public space, that it gets into the public space and arrives until the roof. You will see some images of that. In terms of organization of the floor plan, we have proposed to put this core here, that this is like this floor where the stairs arrive floor by floor. When you have the elevator that also arrive here, this place is like this street I told you before. It's a 40 square meter space where you can put the washing machines, the community washing machines, floor by floor. You can put your clothes here to dry. You can play. You can put a table. The kids can stay here, etc. No? And all the dwellings are organized surrounding this space, and with this idea of the abanico. I don't know the name of in English of this, but with this idea.
Vedalla.
Vedalla. So with this idea, okay, here we have natural ventilation and cross ventilation in all of the dwellings, okay, and we have two dwellings that are 65 square meters, this one and the one in the corner, and the other are 45 square meters of surface inside. Okay. Here you have the image of this floor, all of wood, and here you see that when we arrive to the third floor, we separate of the house of the building that we have next to it. I'll tell you why now. So that we have not 6 dwellings, but 5 dwellings. But this same idea of these streets here, that in each floor they have a different geometry, so that all of them has their own identity. And these are these spaces, no? With this floor I told you before, that it's the same one that you see in the street, and it gets into the building, no? So here we have this image that we like very much. That is one of these 40 square meters dwelling, how the user has organized the internal space, but also how it uses the community space of each one of the floors. Now you have this user has 40 square meters of private space and 40 square meters more of community space that is shared with all the different dwellings in this same area, and the surface is the same one. Okay? And the functional program, it uses the washing machine as it was in his house. So this is the logic of the project. No? See, here we see a little the images before life. Now it's full of vegetation, it's full of furniture, it's full of life. You'll see some images later. And when we arrive to the 6th floor, this building reduces the surface because of the urban conditions. Here we have three dwellings, and here we have this terrace, no, where very big terrace and more than 150 square meters, where people uses it as their space, as their saloon, no? Their salon, their living room, no? Also, with very nice views of the city, of the sea, etc. And the third main idea of the building, we've talked about ecology, after we talk about community, and now we talk about city, no, and neighborhood. How does this building contribute do a better city, a better neighborhood. No? And now we will talk a little bit more about architectural concepts or urban concepts. Here is the image of the skyline of this street I told you, between walls, no, family houses. Our building makes some important decisions to facilitate this situation in between these two areas of the city that I told at the beginning by recognizing this skyline. Actually, we have this ground floor plus 2 stores that has this dimension and are attached to the building who is next to it, so that we recognize this like this the pre-existing city and this historical city of the 60s, of the 70s, self-constructed city. And once we arrive here, although the urban plan has permitted us to continue building with a wall here and offer a blind wall here for the centuries of the future here to the city, we decided to regulate a little bit and to offer the city a facade, not a blind facade, but a facade with windows. And we put the stairs here so that we could make a building that can offer to the city a facade instead of a blind facade. Okay, and also by doing this cut here that you will see in the image now, because this third floor is like, it's not in the front facade. It's like it has a regulation and it goes a little background. All this is just to really produce a building that, although it has 5 more stores that the building next to it recognizes and it has a care, no? In terms of volume, in terms of architecture. So once we turn, we use these 2 colors, no, to emphasize this idea, with this gray here, just to emphasize also this cut, this recognition of these 2 stores that we have had here. But how do we convert this 2-story building that we have at the left-hand side to a 7-story building or 8-story building in the right-hand side? So, well, this is the strategy we use. The colors also has an intention. This ceramic color, argile color, wants to recognize these self-constructed buildings that have been built here in this neighborhood, and the white color is the main color of the city of Barcelona. So it wants to be a building constructed and showed to the exterior with the 2 main colors of the city of Barcelona. No? We are constructing the city we want to construct. So this is a little bit the project of CRS. Some more images. No, these are the images of the inner part of the plot, and that's all. Here you see the Instagram of the community, because it's very active, and you can, if you see the Instagram here, you will see the activities. No, they do cinema in the terrace, they do yoga, they do all these things you see here. No, it's really another way of living together. More images, plenty of activities. Okay, so this is the first part of the presentation. It's been maybe a bit long. It's okay if I continue with the theory. I try to be a bit quick.
Diego, no problem.
At least it's all more written now. So I hope in 10-15 minutes we can stop and we open the conversation, okay?
Perfect.
Good. So the foundations, no? The foundations of all cooperative projects. First of all, you need a common vision of the future users of the building, okay? the first day that a group arrives and says, I want I want you to be the architect, or I want you to help us to do a project for a community, for our community. So these people needs to have a common vision. What does it mean? It means that they have to be able to describe their sharing future. No? What do they want to be when they are older, if you want? What are the fundamental values of the group? The common vision emphasizes something with which each person can identify when there are problems, when people forget why we are here after 3 years of problems and of difficulties. You have to go back to the common vision, and it emphasizes this issue of identity. It's the point of reference when there is no agreement. Okay, no agreement, why we are here, no? It keeps inspiration in mind, and it stimulates engagement. So common vision, very important. After common vision, project definition. What's the background and the history of the group? It has to be written. What are the mission, vision, and values of the group? Of the group that begins the project, because all projects at the beginning, they have a group, and when they finish and begin life, the group is very different. Maybe because some people have quit, maybe because the group was very, very little and other people has joined. It has to be written. What is our dream? What is our project? Because when people arrive, you can tell, we are this. Do you want to join us or not? Okay. Never you have the 25 people from the beginning, 25, 20, or 30. Okay. What's the social project? Is there a social project more than a community project? What is the social project in terms of interaction with the context? What are the needs of the people? No, for instance, when we talk about this project for people of more than 20 years old, they have a specific needs. No, they will have very specific needs that will have to be attended in terms of all that is needed by people of more than 70 years old that maybe will die in this building. No? What are their fortresses? And also, if they have a reference of other projects, if we are inspired by La Borda, we are inspired by the Danish, or we are inspired by the Uruguayan people of self-construction. If there is an inspiration focused of a project or two or three projects, it is important to be referenced. Another very important thing is the model of governance. What's our legal form? We want to be a cooperative. What kind of cooperative? Independent cooperative. We want to join a bigger project. What are our organizational chart and our operational protocols? How do we want to make decisions? By majorities, by consents? We want. How do we want to be leader? There's a clear leadership. We don't want strong leaderships. The decisions has to be. Not all the groups need the same degree of participation. Some people need to be very practical, and they don't care. They don't care of the same things that other groups that are very worried about everything. So each group needs to decide which are their level of participation and their way of participation. Okay? And also a very important issue is the internal communication, how we deal with communication internally. Okay? And the last but not least, very important issue is everything that is related with the place and the space. No, we are going to rehabilitate an existing building, or we want to build a new building. We want to construct in a public land or building, or in a private land or building, so we have to buy it. We want. How do we want to get this land or this building? By purchase or by land lease? We don't have time to get into these particularities, but there are many. All these issues has a strong impact in terms of economy, in terms of financial structure, in terms of basically in this thing. Okay. So here I give you some literature of some books that we have. Whether we have read and we have learned a lot about them. For instance, Crear una vida juntos. This is an American woman who has done like a study of 60 different communities in the US from the 60s until the 2000 of how was the process of beginning as communities. And here in the right-hand side, there are some publications that we have done ourselves after our experience, no, concerning how to deal with communities. Okay, here I will don't extend, but these projects are long. Okay, we need at least 4 years from the beginning until the end of the works to achieve the objective of finishing the project. Okay, and between 4 and 6 years is the average. After that, whole life, depending on how, if you have purchased the land or it belongs to the municipality, these are legal issues. But don't think that this is quick. It's hard. It's tough. It needs time. It needs effort. So these are like the foundations. Okay, have the foundation. We have to know all this before beginning. Otherwise, if we think it's gonna be very quick and very easy, people will leave, because it's not like that. So what are the roles of the architecture team? No, and the architects, we play the role in between the place and the users. We have to there are these 3 elements very important, and the architects a little bit are in between these 2 elements. No? The users and their desires and their project and their needs, and the place. And when I talk about the place, I also talk about the the reglement, all the rules that we have to accomplish to do a building. Okay, all the requirements, the external requirements apart for the users. So the architects, we have to deal with these both things and try to find the match. No? So what are the requirements of the users? Well, the group project is one of where we concentrate these requirements in terms of mission, vision, and values. The economic capacity is also very important. It's not the same to build a building for people who are low income or middle income or high income. Okay. Also, the functional program, it has nothing to do if you want 10% of community spaces versus private spaces, that if you want 50% of community spaces. And each community needs different percentage, and it has a strong impact in the beginning, no? Since the beginning. And also, what are these community uses? I mean, what they will want to do in these community spaces. These are the requirements of the users. What are the requirements of the place? As I told you, urban planning, what does it say? Surveying and geotechnics, climate, geobiology, building standards. We know all these, no? So what's the role of the architecture team once you know these 2 requirements, no? Well, who should the architecture project respond to? No? That's one of the questions we have asked ourselves a lot. At the beginning, we were very much of thinking that the answer was that our project has to respond to the community that we were talking with at that moment. No? But once you begin to see that the community is changing all the time, and once they are living, then the community living there also has changes and is impermanent. We have, I think that we have to, our architecture has to give a response not only for the people who is at the beginning or at that moment. The users, we have to give a response to the users of each time period. We have to think in a long term, okay? So the concept of housing as equipment that remains in time and in which users are passing over generations. This is very important. So participation, yes, but okay, it's not. We have to do like a traje a medida, no? Like a suite made for this community, because this won't work. Okay. And also, not only think about the community that will live in the building, but also think about the population as a whole, no? Considering the territory, the city, the neighborhood, because this building has to interact with the neighborhood. They are buildings done to implement the right of the city, the right to the housing and the right to the city. So it's very important. We have this idea of blurring the line between the private and the public. No? So concerning what should the architecture project respond to? Obviously, functional requirement in terms of spaces, low environmental impact, comfort, flexibility, and adaptation to change, healthy spaces, technical quality, etc. No, we have already this. We know this, but we cannot forget this. So the question is, why do we have to involve users and neighbors in the co-design process? Why? There is a sense, or we find three senses. No, first one, the adaptation of the project to the needs, because okay, we don't have to do something very specific for those people, but we have to be in contact with the people, with this community that is changing all the time, so that our project doesn't lose the connection to the reality, because this community is changing, but this is the reality. No, so the adaptation to the present, to the real needs. After the appropriation of the project and the space by users, the sense of appropriation, when once you are not the owner of the house, because the cooperative, the right to use cooperative, you will never be the owner in terms of property, but you have the right to use. And if a part of that you participate in the process of design and the decision making also in the works, the appropriation of the project is very high, no? And this gives stability, this gives continuity, this is positive for the territory and also for the people who will live there. And the last and not least is the empowerment of the users in the process, because they learn a lot. Architects, we have to be very patient, very patient and very pedagogic, because you have to explain many things, because people have to understand, has to validate or not, has to decide things. And so that they can decide, you have to give them the tools so they are able to decide. No? After we will see a little bit what are the kind of decisions, but they cannot decide for instance, the facility strategy if you don't explain them what are the different possibilities of facility strategy and what does it mean on one strategy in relation with the other, which an aerothermal or geothermal or biomassa. You have to explain everything, otherwise you do participation, but if they don't know very well what are we talking about, it's a false participation. Okay? So it requires a deep understanding of the values, dreams, and imagination of the future users, and it has a few difficulties, no? Difficulty number one, users are a community, not an individual or a cohabitation unit. So they change, sometimes they change their mind, they don't agree between them. So it's difficult. You don't have one actor, you have a group of actors, no? Difficulty number two, communities in the process of defining their own identity, they don't know what they want sometimes. They are in process of knowing what they want, or maybe they think they want something, and once they live there, they change their mind. So flexibility, so especially in communities, in common spaces or community spaces, is very, very important. It's very difficult that a community can say 3 years before they are going to live together, if they have never lived together before, that they will want a common kitchen, or that they will want, I don't know, a ping pong place to play ping pong. No? So it has to be very flexible, because even if they know, it will change. No? And the third difficulty, both individuals and communities are impermanent and constantly changing. No? That's what I told before. So we have to deal with this participation, but with this perspective, I would say. What is the role of architects, of the architect facilitator? No, we are not only architects, we are facilitators. We have to have tools to facilitate the decision making, and this is something that we don't learn in the schools of architecture. We have to learn many other things more related to community dynamics. Okay, so the architect has to inform users to facilitate decision. They have to offer tools. The architect establishes and orders the architectural decision-making process. Orders means it puts in order. Now we cannot decide the first day what is what's probably the facility's strategy. We have to think about other things now. Now we have to decide if the building is facing north or facing west, or if we want dwellings all the same sizes or different sizes. So we have to. Each moment of the process needs different decisions. So we have to order this decision and establish this order so that people, otherwise it's like impossible to design. No? So it also makes visible the eventual contradiction or resignation of all design processes. The architects, we have to say, you want this and you want this, and this is impossible because it's a contradiction. So you have to decide whether this or whether that. It's not my decision as architect, it's your decision. So I inform you of what are the advantages of this, what is the disadvantages of this. I can give you my opinion, but it's your decision. No? It brings the vision beyond the particular of that instant. That's, we have already told about that. Not only this moment, the groups used to see the needs of that they have at this moment or in 3 years future, but we have to put the vision in 30 years, 50 years. That's our responsibility. And it contributes, and also we have to contribute with architectural value, that's obvious. So here are some images of this process. It's nice images. So concerning community spaces and types of community spaces, this is something that Carlos will explain you later, and he will explain it very well. So I'm not going to stay in this point. Okay, you will talk about general community spaces, cluster typology, flexible room, shared households. There are many different kinds of community spaces apart from the private spaces, and this is something we are learning project by project. Once you see that something doesn't work so well, other things they work. So this is something in permanent change. We are discovering as architects a new typology of multifamily or collective housing. And this is something also very cultural. I think what we are discovering in our territory will be different than we're discovering in your territory and our Northern Europe territory. And to finish, areas of community participation co-design. And this is quite obvious, but if I would have to say you 7 groups of elements or parts of the participatory process, I would say general configuration, the basic project or the pre-project, we call here in Spain, we call anteproyecto, the pre-project or the basic project, the general configuration, where I was talking before, orientation, sizes of the private spaces versus community spaces, these general decisions. Some groups, the groups who are from the beginning, they can participate in this part, but sometimes with cooperatives like Sostra Civic, where sometimes the people arrive when this part has already been developed, they cannot participate. So that's why it's very important also this flexible configuration always, so that you can easily make changes so that the sizes of the dwelling, so that it's easy to make changes to the infrastructure. So general configuration of the basic project is one point. Another is the construction system. You want to build in wood, you want to build in concrete. What are the construction materials you want to use? That's something that usually is very much attached to economy and ecology. What do you put the balance? No, what's more important for you, or what are the possibilities? Another part is the interior distribution of private spaces. This is something where people like very much and want to participate in this part. It's always a discussion. What is the degree of individualization? No, we are not very much into doing a special project for each one of the persons of the families that will be living in the project, because people change. You do the workshop today, and in 2 years he left and he changed the dwelling. So I would say it's very important to make consensus. Each typology has only one internal distribution, and it has to be a consensus between the different parts. Because if there is a consensus of the 5 persons who have the same typology of dwelling and they agree, it means that it's good for everybody. It means that it will be adaptable to changes. Another one is the facilities strategy in terms of energy, so on, community, communal production of energy and of climate or not, etc. Use of community spaces, what use do they want, if it's very clear or not, otherwise always flexibility. Another point is interior finishes and customization. What we do not get, well, when we talk about the cost of the building and the construction cost, it always touches the issue of interior finishes, because at the beginning everybody wants things that are very, very nice and sometimes quite expensive, and at the end always the lack of money or the cost of the building is always higher than expected, and people get into the decision of putting one finition or another, and maybe we cannot afford these finitions and we are going to do something more simple. These are kind of decisions that at the end of the process, before the initial of the beginning of construction, we get into that. No? So most of the times we do very, very simple interior finishes so that people can customize once they are living there. I want a bigger kitchen. Okay, we do a very simple kitchen, maybe the basics, and after you do what you want. And if you have more money, you can put a bigger kitchen. And if you don't have so much money, maybe you don't do it, but you can cook. Okay. So this is something that the same with Phoenicians, with kind of floors, the materials. Okay. And the last one, the prioritization during the project and also during the works. There is no works that where there are no problems or no extra costs that maybe were not reflected in the project or in the budget. So there are sometimes you have to make decisions during the process of the work. This is something that has also to be very participated, because usually it touches things that are important for the users. Okay. Well, these are like the 7 groups of things that we think are important to be discussed and to be treated in terms of co-design. Okay, so here you see some images of our processes. We use models when we can, and we can afford the discussion of the materials, etc. No? Well, I would like to stop here and open the conversation. It will be 15 minutes, I'm sorry, but that's what we have. I hope it was interesting, this first part, but yeah, I would like really to open this conversation that can be interesting. So I stop sharing, okay?
Thank you very much, Diego. Very interesting, the case that you showed us, and also all the reflections, because you've been working for many years in all of this. So after every project, I guess, there is a process of reflection and changing something to the next ones. So yes, I would invite all of you, all of the participants to open their cameras, and if you have thought of any questions, now is the moment to ask Diego. And maybe, I don't know if someone is ready, but I could initiate myself a first idea a first question that I have in my mind. I wanted to ask you, because I know that you have participated as Cellobert and Perviure in different projects, from Cirerers, then you showed some pictures of Renegao, Ruderal. And I wanted to ask you if you see like an evolution somehow in Cataluña's or Barcelona's model, like from the initial project that was Cirerers until now, the latest ones. Do you see that it's going towards a way that it started, let's say, with some characteristic, and now it's evolving towards another way in terms of the areas that you mentioned, the participation of the group, in terms of construction systems that you use, in terms of the way that is being developed, like during this small experience that you have had already? Do you see already, let's say, some differences from the beginning till now? Like, do you see some things being moving towards a direction, I don't know, less participation in order to make it more quick, the process, or the sustainability now revolves more around this use of materials or more around these choices? I don't know if you have some reflection on that, on the evolution of the model until now.
It's a wide question. Yeah, very clearly, we when we see CRS, we would do things, some things different, no? And that's positive. What are the things I think we would do different and now, and that we are doing different in other projects? No? For instance, CRS, they have this project has community spaces, indoors and outdoors. I showed you before, but and private spaces. But there are not intermediate community spaces. I mean, in the presentation that Carlos will show you later, you will get into that. But for instance, one type of community space that we are introducing in all the projects now is this flexible room that at least one per floor, or the possibility of having community rooms that maybe you use them for a long period of time. You can say 2 or 3 years, or maybe for each weekend, and that some the flexibility of if you only have community spaces for everybody and private spaces, everything that has to do with the variation of the conditions of the families of the unidades de convivencia, bueno, the families, we would say, that live in each one of the dwellings, they cannot adapt. It's difficult to adapt to the changing. No? So this community room is something very, very important. No? This is one point. Another would be the construction system. At the beginning, we pushed, and we continue pushing, to use ecological materials in all the projects. But the truth is that sometimes it's not possible in terms of cost. No? And if you want to build a model that is available, affordable for the different social levels and income levels, you cannot always do a wooden building, no? And we are doing different kind of construction systems now. Concerning the energy, the sector has also changed a lot. At the beginning, we could not do, for instance, the contracts for electricity. We had to do each flat a contract of electricity. Now we are able to do only one contract for all the community, and each dwelling pays the consumption they have, but it's much lower the cost. This is something that the law it allows us to do that, and it was impossible a few years ago. So all the facilities are now being communal and community facilities that is more efficient in terms of energy, but it means a maintenance. So the issue of the maintenance and the management of the building once it's built, it's very important, and you have to say that to the future dwellers since the beginning, because it's not that you pay the company directly. You have to have you pay to the community, to the cooperative, and the cooperative pays to the company, the electricity company, for instance. No? And also the participation process, I think that has been quite clear along my presentation. We have learned that we have to, that the participation is very important. I think it's necessary, but at the same time, you have to take into account all these issues I told you about, this logic of infrastructure and this vision in a 30 or 60 years time. No? So the balance between these realities is very important.
Great, thanks a lot, Diego. And now, I don't know if anybody wants to ask anything. Don't be shy. It can be whatever you have doubts about what Diego presented, or any ideas around the model in Catalonia or the cases in Barcelona. I don't know if someone wants to say something.
for sure there are questions, because it touches so much. I mean, what we heard touches so much of the actual process that everybody here is being trained to follow. But it was very interesting. Thank you very much, because also you structured very well the different dimensions or issues involved in this process when it has to do with this type of collective co-owned process. So thank you very much. I think it will be a very useful presentation to go back to as the teams will be working on their own proposals for the buildings. Of course, in this competition, we look at existing buildings and how to transform them. This has other types of constraints, let's say. But still, a lot of dimensions and issues to think about are key in all of the projects. So if come on, you had questions. You have so many questions. You can write them or speak about it. If not, I mean, can you tell us a little bit about the costs? I mean, give us a scale. You mentioned you try, of course, it's a big issue, and it's always a kind of balance that has to be kept. But from the projects you have worked in, what has been the outcome in terms of costs and participation and affordability in relation to standard buildings or market prices?
You are asking me the construction cost or
the constructions, but also the production, let's say, cost, and at the end the rent or the initial equity required from members.
Okay, the cost of the building, it's around CRS was around 1,200 euros square meter without taxes. That's the construction cost, and this is the cost of the building. Okay, and now after all the rises of prices between 2020, 21 until now, we are between 1,300 and 1,400. That depends. This is the cost of the market of the construction, okay, with this kind of building. Concerning the cost of for the dweller, this has to do with many other things because it depends if you have to pay the plot or the land, or you don't have to pay the land. That changes completely the situation. It depends also if you have grants, public grants to build the building. Usually, if you do protected the social housing, you stand in the social housing standard, VPO in Spanish. If you do that, you receive a 20%, approximately 20% of the building is paid by the government. It also depends of the loan conditions. It has nothing to do a loan of 5% or a loan of 2.5%. So all these issues has a lot to do with what does the user finally pay. Okay, so for instance, the CRS project, depending on the size of the dwelling, the cost was the initial I don't know the name, the initial amount of money you have to put that you get back once you leave, if you ever leave. It's in between 20,000 and 32,000 euro, and the loan you pay, the rent you pay, it's around between 450 and 600 and something. It depends on the size of the dwelling, and this includes usually includes the cost of the electricity and the water. Okay. But for example, Project Renegà, that is a private land, CRS is a public land. the cost of the building is more or less the same because the construction is the same, but they have to put 36,000 euro since the beginning, no? And the loans are more or less the same. This project is a little bit cheaper in terms of cost, but it has received also a public funding. So it depends on each cases. Now in Barcelona, the municipality gives money to this cooperative, a part of this social housing grant that you receive from the government. No? You receive from the government, and also in case of Barcelona, you receive an extra support for the construction of this building. So that means that if Cireres was constructed today, it will be a bit cheaper. No? Also, the financial conditions. When we did Cireres, it was financed by Fiare Banca Etica that had a conditions that now they would be better because now the Catalan Finance Institute is giving loans to construct these kind of buildings, and they are better conditions than Fiare. So this helps a lot, no? So the more the model is installed, the more the model is implemented, the more security it gives to the different actors, the public actors, the financial actors, etc., and the better conditions you have. No? So at the beginning, it's always more difficult, but it's more interesting at the same time.
It's ice-breaking. And sorry, how much is the interest rate in these better condition loans?
I'm very bad with this because it's not my subject, but
okay. But yeah, because now interest rates are rising and changing and scary.
Yeah. I think it's 2.5, but I'm not. I cannot give you.
No,
it's
no,
around
it's okay.
that.
It's okay. It's a detail. Yeah. Okay.
2.2 or 2.5, something like that.
Good. There is a question in the chat.
Yeah.
There
is a question from Vespina in the chat. So she's saying, first of all, thank you for your presentation. It was extremely helpful and thorough. I would like to ask, how did you construct the method theory and the steps you presented? Was it developed before the design process, or was it a conclusion that was developed after the realization of the project? And the second question is, how many apartments of each typology are incorporated into the whole project?
Okay, for the first one, it's a little bit of both. So, well, in Spain, all the participatory processes were very much inspired in Latin America development housing projects. And we're very much focused into technical solutions. So we were not very, that was not very helpful. But in Northern Europe, in England and in Holland, there is a strong history since the 70s or 80s. There is a good by library where you can find some books and some authors that are very interesting. No? Housing Without Houses, there is one of the references we had. But well, this gives you like a knowledge, a theoretical knowledge that it's once you put into practice and you begin to find problems and difficulties are also good things you've done, that you develop your own theory. So what you saw today, it comes from both, no? Experience and theory. And concerning the second question, how many apartments of each typology are incorporated into the whole project? I think you're asking about Cireres, no? In Cireres, there were 32 apartments. As I told you before, there are approximately 10 or 12 of them that are 65 square meters, two different typologies, corner or not corner, passing a typology. And 20 of them are the little ones that has two orientations. So there are also two subtypologies of this typology. But I would say that the typology of CRS is one of the things that I think are more, we could do much better today, no? It was the result of a complexity of many different interests and many different propositions also about the city I told you before. And now the project we are developing, we are usually introducing at least 3 or 4 different typologies. If we talk about buildings of 20, 25 dwellings, but based on a modulation that is very simple, and maybe you can swap a room from a dwelling to the other using this flexible room I told you before. So a very ordered constructivity, I would say that it's very ordered and very, it seems that everything, it's all the same. There is a strong repetition, but I'll say this strong repetition is not contradicted with the issue of doing different typologies. Doing different typologies, I think it's something very positive, because it usually, if there are needs who changes in the community, people can swap dwellings between them, no? Usually it's easier to swap dwellings between them that do transition rooms under my point of view. But well, this would be a discussion, a long discussion, and I think that with Carlos Valles later on, you will be able to get into that, because well, you'll see it has a very good explanation and theory and reflection about this.